At a time for business, and Sandra Fenu has joined me. Hello, Sandra.
Hello, good evening, Israel.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
Very well.
Okay.
Business news is next, and we have a lot to talk about, especially the monetary policy rate has been maintained again for the second
16%.
time. Yes, this
All
year.
right.
We'll tell you details.
Take it up.
All right. Hello, good evening. My name is Sandra Isinama. As always, I'm here for business. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has kept its key lending rate at 16% due to favorable economic and inflation outlook. This is the second time this year that the MPC has left the rate unchanged. George Wafe has more in this report.
Speaking at the press conference, the governor noted that they are monitoring developments and would act if needed to ensure that their actions reflect on happenings in the market. On the Ghana cedi, the governor also said they are putting in place measures to ensure it does not witness any serious depreciation this year. He, however, rejected predictions by the Economist Intelligence Unit that the local currency would come under some sustained depreciation by the end of this year and even up to 2023.
I don't think that these, projections are plausible, especially to be able to project the exchange rate in 3 years. That's really a very daring thing to do, and you find that such, projections more often than not do not turn out to be correct because the horizon is too far out. But I can tell you that our objective is to keep the cedi as stable as we can.
The governor was also worried that the current energy sector payments for past contracts are putting some pressure on its reserves.
Going forward, we would have to manage some of the outflows that are projected for the rest of the year, especially payments that are associated with the take-or-pay arrangements regarding the energy sector. Those are areas that are, in a sense, were previously unplanned. These are unplanned payments which the Bank of Ghana has had to recently take on. So it becomes an additional source of pressure in the outlook.
On the cleanup of the microfinance and rural banks, the governor noted they need some time before they come out to the actual days for clearing up the sector.
Yes, the ministry has managed to open an escrow account with the resources have been credited to the account. So we are in a better position to plan towards the cleaning up of the microfinance industry. But we need to be careful about the process. So this is what we are spending a little bit more time to understand the population of microfinance institutions out there.
The governor also gave further reasons for the huge spike in the total debt stock, which has hit 198 billion cedis. Dr. Ernest Addison also added that they have engaged the Chief Justice over proposals to have a special court to deal with developments in the banking sector.
Let's get some reaction now. And economist with the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Korte, has been sharing his thoughts on the MPC's decision to maintain the policy rate at 16%.
Policy rate for me, maintaining the policy rate didn't come as a surprise because if you look at the key variables that the monetary authorities use, that is the central bank, inflation rate, inflation outlook, exchange rate depreciation, GDP growth. All of this have shown relative stability, and therefore you wouldn't expect the central bank to adjust the policy rate. So for me, I think it's in order. We've noticed that the lending rates are sticky downwards. In other words, when the policy rate is increased, you see the banks responding by also adjusting their rates upwards. But when the policy rate comes down or is reduced, you don't see such marginal decline in the bank lending rates. This is also because there are several factors that determine interest rate. It could be the policy rate, it could be cost of credit, or cost of funds, and many others, including default rate. And therefore, you will find that although the central bank moves its policy rates. Lending rates don't come down. Also, access to credit doesn't improve as significantly as one would expect.
Meanwhile, GCB Bank has also been reacting to the new rate. Managing Director of GCB, Ray Soa, spoke to Ebenezer Sabute.
The Bank of Ghana's economic and financial data released last Friday after it met to review the health of the economy showed that from November 2018 to March this year, the debt stock went up by some 22 billion Ghana cedis. The 180
last meeting of the MPC kept the rates where they were, okay? I don't think it is for me, who works closely with them, to speculate on why they did that. From my bank's point of view, I can read into it, and I have to dovetail the business of the bank to deal with what it is. But we at GCB have also taken a view of what the direction that Bank of Ghana is going in, and we are responding accordingly. Okay, this version of Bank of Ghana have brought rates from a high of, to where we are today. It is clear where they want us to go. And I believe that over time, when the legacy issues have been cleared out of the system, we will all fall in line and the rates will come down.
The country's total debt stock has hit 198 billion cedis ending March this year, having witnessed a significant increase over the past 4 months. So what is driving this growth in the debt measures? George Afia again has more in this report.
The Bank of Ghana's economic and financial data released last Friday after it met to review the health of the economy showed that from November 2018 to March this year, the debt stock went up by some 22 billion Ghana cedis. The 189 billion debt stock represents about 58% of the total value of the economy. Sources say the increase in the debt stock over the past 4 months can be attributed to the cedi's recent depreciation, the $3 billion Eurobond, and what sources close to government are describing as exchange losses. On the general economy, total earnings from the exports of gold, cocoa and oil ending April this year stood at $5.3 billion. This was about $1 million down from what we got in the same period in 2017. The country, however, spent $4.1 billion to finance its imports. Our international reserves as at the end of April was $9.3 billion, while the Bank of Ghana puts the cedi's rate of depreciation against the dollar at around 5.7% as at the end of May this year. On the banking sector, there was a lot to be excited about as deposits and credit to the private sector continue to increase, while loans that the banks fear would not be paid back on time was also going down.
In just 3 days, we'll be hitting the Joy Business Health and Wellness Trade Show. But how do you stay healthy the whole of this month and then subsequently to the end of the year? We'll have some tips for you when I return with more business news after 8 p.m.